Hello and welcome to Labour Lens. I am Sharon Ijason. On this week edition of the program, we'll be focusing on the International Labour Conference 2022 happening in Geneva, Switzerland. We will be right back. The Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, TUC, the second labor center in the country, is immersed in a crisis over its leaders' move to throw open the contest for the position of its president, contrary to resolution of its National Delegates Conference of 20th June 2019 at the NAF Conference Center in Abuja. Not comfortable with this development, 10 affiliate unions of TUC approached the National Industrial Court (NIC) to determine the legality of the moves to jettison the resolution of the 2019 National Delegates Conference, part of which has been implemented. Ruling on the ex parte motion, Justice Rabbi Gwandu restrained TUC from going ahead with anything concerning the National Delegates Conference slated for Tuesday 19th and Wednesday 20th July 2022 until determination of the substantive suits. Members of the Women in Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria took to the streets of Lagos to express their dissatisfaction with rising case of domestic violence. The women trekked several kilometers to the Lagos State Secretariat in Alausa, Ikeja, to have audience with the wife of the state governor, Ibijoke Sanwo-Olu. They lamented that domestic violence is now rampant in the society and lives are being lost daily.
It's an obvious case. You see marriages breaking up. You see women dying, even when they are alive. The society we belong to is not encouraging women to speak out. So women in Pengasan, we have come out to say, you have your women out here that are your friends. You need to speak to us, and we'll live long.
The take home is, in your little corner, in everywhere you go, preach no to domestic violence. Don't be a bystander. Don't be an onlooker. Don't say it doesn't concern me. Yoruba people will say ewole komimbe. Igbo people will say kenke basaram. After all, it's not me that is not being abused. It's not my child. It's not my relative. But domestic violence can come to anybody, irrespective of your societal standing.
The Director of Domestic Violence at the State Ministry of Women Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Oluwatoyin Olorunfemi, says that more than 70% of women experience domestic violence by their spouses this year. She added that the state government ensured prosecution and conviction of those who were found guilty.
It's on the increase, and I would say it's because people are now aware. Formerly, people don't report it. They believe it is same of shame, so they don't report it. But because of the awareness and sensitization campaign, people are coming out. So anyone that would see that it is serious, especially sexual violence, it will go for prosecution. No mercy. Yes, we get conviction on daily basis.
They noted that Convention 190 of the International Labour Organization, ILO, which Nigeria is a signatory to, condemns domestic violence and sexual harassment at work, place, home, and more. It's the 5th quadrennial delegate conference of the Petroleum Tanker Drivers PTD in Ibadan, southwest Nigeria. At the event, President of the National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, Nupeng Williams Akporeya, called on relevant authorities to fix abandoned local oil refineries across the country. He said that it is the only way Nigeria can reap the full benefits of being an oil-producing country.
And so for any government, for any responsible government, what they must do is to ensure that this product is refined locally. I don't know if it will really take a rocket science to build a refinery. That the only refinery we talk about today that the one built during the military era. And today we are hustling to rehabilitate them. Government must rise to its occasion, must place its priorities right.
The National Trustee of NUPENG, Salimon Oladiti, commended members and leadership of the union of their support during his 8 years in charge as chairman of PTD unit. While reading out his 12-point achievement in office, Oladiti expressed joy that capacity training organized for tanker drivers annually helps to reduce truck accidents in the country.
You know, this is part of what reduces tanker accident along our highway. If you say you want to run, you want to kill yourself, and your truck refuses to run, I think it's a wise decision taken by the union and the Federal Road Safety Corps. This measure helped in a tremendous way to reduce the incidence of tanker accidents on our roads.
The event witnessed presentation of awards to outstanding members and employers, including Ejiro Otarigo, who averted disaster by driving his burning tanker out of the crowded area in Delta State. Members of the association were urged to see themselves as the managers of the truck they drive.
Actually, some people advocated that it's wrong for the federal government to fix minimum wage for state, which I believe is the right idea. They have genuine reason because some states cannot afford it. Some can afford it. There are some states that depend mostly on revenue from federal government. They cannot generate enough revenue on their own. Even the one they get from federal government, in some cases they spend it in paying staff, making nothing left to do any developmental project. So I think rather than federal government fixing the minimum wage, the states should agree on the amount they can afford, which they believe is reasonable. I didn't understand me, because the minimum wage is 30,000. I'm quite sure some states cannot afford it. So when you now impose it on such states to pay 30,000 when they can't afford it, that's why you have the reason why some states are owing their workers. So instead of even fixing minimum wage, I think the best federal government should do is to try and subsidize some major sectors.
Even the 30,000 minimum wage, if you ask me, maybe because I stay in Lagos, but if you ask me, it's not enough for the average worker. You can see the increment in the price of fuel in the last 2 years. So even if you increase, and they are still dragging, price has increased again, although unofficially, but the fuel stations are selling at 200. Nobody has come out to say they should not sell at 200. Everybody just quiet because there was scarcity and people had to move around. You have to power your generator. So if you don't have the money, how do you not survive? So that's the problem.
I think that looking at the creative management of resources and looking at the expenditure on members of the State House of Assembly, the governors itself, running the affairs of the governor's office, security vote, I think it should not be impossible for even the poorest state in Nigeria, to be able to afford minimum wage, because it's just a living wage. If you look at 30,000 naira, it's hardly enough to buy a bag of rice. And when you are talking of a family of 2 or 3. So I think the states they need to be more creative. They need to cut expenses on frivolous items, furniture, cars for members of House of Assembly, new cars for traditional rulers. All those things they need to cut, the expenses so that they will be able to have enough. So I think what is important is for each state to be able to be creative and then engage its people constructively so that they can have enough to pay the minimum wage. Look at Lagos, for instance. Lagos is adding 100 naira to transportation, and there has been a whole lot of outcries. But if you look at the reality on the ground, a state of about 20 million people, and then you have a situation where there have been mass migration of people from the Maghreb region because of the conflict in those areas, from the Middle Belt, from across the West African countries. this is going to exert a lot of pressure on public utilities. I know a lot of people who are from Borno State, who are from Bauchi State, who are in public schools in Lagos. They came in the past 5 years, and they don't need to pay fee. They will use roads, they will use health care. So each state needs to be creative to look for ways that it can generate funds without necessarily, increasing the sovereigns of the masses, because people are already passing through very difficult moments.
On the profile interview segment this week, I'll be speaking with the Minister of Labour, Dr. Chris Ngige. He brings us up to speed on activities of the International Labour Organization and spoke about what Nigerians should expect as a member governing board of the International Labour Organization. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
A lot of conversation has been happening at the 110th ILO conference here in Geneva, Switzerland.
Yeah.
And I'm very much aware that child labor is one big issue for both government, employers of labor, and workers themselves. Can you bring us up to speed on what the Nigerian government has been doing to ensure that child labor is reduced to the barest minimum?
Well, thank you very much. The issue of child labor has been on the front burner. It's an ILO item, and apart from being an ILO item, governments of the world, especially United States and Netherlands, have made it a very cardinal issue, because to some extent, even though theirs have political and economic coloration, but for we, especially in Africa, we know that it's a very major scourge, having children hawking things on the streets instead of being in school. In the mines, you also see underage children, different construction industries, you also see them. So the fight is a step in the right direction, because once they are not in school, and no matter what kind of economic benefits they give to their family, they pose danger, existential danger to the society. Because once you're not educated, you're not going to school, you're a danger. The Nigerian government has done very well. We have a free education scheme for the basic education under the UBE scheme. Universal Basic Education in Nigeria is free, to the extent that you can do primary, you can do up to junior secondary school at a free rate. Government is doing it. Maybe areas of getting books could be the only contribution. But much more importantly, the Nigerian government have gone a step further in the social investment program of the Buhari administration to put in two that will feed school children free. Give them one meal, one nutritious meal in a day, so that they are well nourished, and you take away the load of feeding from their parents, take away the load of school fees from their parents. So the school enrollment program has gone high, and that is one of the biggest social investment program in Africa, because you give social protection to the family. And I can tell you that by the statistics we have in Nigeria, the program has gone to the 36 states, and we have about 10 million children under this program. It's a gigantic program, one of the biggest in Africa.
I am aware that sometimes, maybe because some parents do not believe in government, there are so many children that are being locked up in the room and they are not going to school, which also contributes to the high number of out-of-school children in Nigeria. How would you react to this? Owing to the fact that that number you just mentioned, that over 10 million children have been captured with the social protection net that Nigerian has been able to cover in terms of the school feeding program. That certain number of children are also still out of school. So what's the government trying to do to bring them in to school?
Yes, you're right. In the urban area is low because the urban population too, civilized people. You have the urbanized persons there, the elites and those who have gone to school and those who have knowledge about the world, or those who are working and want their children to have education because education is power. In the rural areas, yes, that's why we have taken the school feeding program to the rural areas. That's where the government is concentrating now. And I can tell you that it's a work in progress. It's a journey of 1,000 miles. That starts with one step. We have just introduced this program about 4 years ago. That's the school feeding program. And when we started it, it didn't spread all over the states. We did pilot of 5 states, and after pilot of 8 states, in 1 year, it was done successful. We boosted the earning of farmers from it. The farmers provide the egg, they provide the vegetable, they provide the rice and whatever food item, yam. So you have empowered another sector of rural people too. The cooks are also driven from the rural people, and the parents of those children, they are again paid money for cooking. So you can see that we concomitantly fight child labor, fight poverty, and then give social protection. A three-pronged triad system that is beneficial in the long run. So the results will not manifest immediately. So the World Bank and IMF figures, yes, they could be what it is today, but we've articulated a program that has an immediate effect, medium-term effect, and long-term.
Nigerian government has rectified and domesticated most of the conventions that relate to child labor, especially when it has to do with the Child Rights Act. Can you tell us your experience during this process?
No. The Child Rights Act have been something we had to do in collaboration with, in fact, the main drivers are the Ministry of Women Affairs and Ministry of Youth and Sports, and of course, Ministry of Labor will give support, and the Attorney General's office. It's not been easy, but that act is there now. Yes, it's not being observed maximally, as one would expect, but at least we have an enabling law. There's a legislation in place to forbid certain things, certain age group from doing certain things, certain work, and the rest of them off. So they are all a synergistic move for us to get it right.
You were appointed recently on the governing board of the International Labour Organization. Can you bring us up to speed on what the process looks like and what does this mean for Nigeria and Africa at large?
Yeah, that's a show of vote of confidence on Nigeria. We were not appointed. We were voted for from our continent. So if you know the history, we were out of the governing board for 10 years. And the governing board is an organ here that is the upper echelon of the ILO structure that does its budgets, gives direction on policies of the ILO, and even elect and appoint Director General and appoint Deputy Director General. So it's an important arm of the ILO. So for Nigeria to have been out for 10 years and we staged a dramatic return. I was elected in Algiers in 2016 to come in as a titular, what you can call deputy, and member, even though you're a member of the body, but on election you don't participate. That's the only thing you lose as a deputy. But 2020, after having served, they elevated us in Africa again to full regular, and we are the regular for West Africa, and as a government. And if you also remember, even while we were a deputy, I was made or nominated to serve as the leader of government side for 1.5 years, or well, with COVID, 2 years. That shows again that Nigeria is of very good standing here and highly respected. And we did do our work. It's our work that is speaking for us. And I do hope that with the remaining period in the governing board, we'll get some more benefit for our country. I finished a technical meeting with the Deputy Director General in charge of Africa, Mrs. Cynthia Olajuwon. So we expect more goodies from ILO. The country office in Nigeria has been upgraded. A lot of work, a lot of ILO programs have been sent to us. Technical assistance have been given in terms of manpower and personnel, and we expect more. We are going to give them our program for decent work, and as per the promise we have from the meeting, we are going to get support in terms of everything that will be done to make the impact of the ILO felt in Nigeria. Because we have told the ILO governing board that the new ILO of the 21st century and the new ILO of 101 years should be an ILO that will go into the field and take their prime place in the committee of external bodies or UN bodies, so that they are not overshadowed and they abdicate their responsibility, especially in the area of social protection. So I'm very confident that Nigeria will benefit more from our membership of the governing board.
Finally, the incoming director of the ILO is from Africa. I know that Nigeria contributed towards this process. Can you bring us up to speed on what Nigerians should be expecting from this current administration that will be resuming any time from now? And what does this mean for the world? What does it mean for Africa? And it's the first time that we'll be having a black person being the Director General of ILO.
Yes, you're very correct. I think this is the time for Africa in the UN and their bodies. If you remember very well, before he came on board, Nigeria's Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala has been also elected in the WTO, World Trade Organization. Before her too, we have our WHO man, Agrella, from Africa again. And then Humbo now made it 2 months ago into the DG position. Nigeria and Africa has human resource. We have very capable hands, and that is why you see it happening. Humbo did not come in there as a fluke. As a matter of fact, His Excellency Humbo was a former Prime Minister in Togo, and he was also a Deputy Director General in the ILO before he now left, and is still in the UN body in the Food Organization in Rome. So he has the requisite credentials, and if he had not played his part well when he was a Deputy Director General here, I do not think that the ILO inner caucus will support his candidature. And if you check here that he contested against a former labor minister from France, a former foreign minister from Korea, and even an incumbent DDG, Deputy Director General here, and some other people with very big credential and scaled in at the second round of ballot, not fourth or third or even fifth ballot. Ballots for such position go into fifth ballot, but on second ballot, he made it. So he's a man coming with a wealth of experience, and I have no doubt in my mind that he will do Africa proud, and even do ECOWAS proud, because after being an African, he's an ECOWAS man. And so we wish him luck as he comes in October 1 to assume the Director Generalship.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember that labor creates wealth.